You can say what you want about his off-court decisions, but his on-court play has always lived up to the hype. It's amazing how one of the most hyped prospects of the last decade has ended up so far off the radar in the last couple seasons that he nearly became a bust. After his questionable off-court controversies, Zion's not only been able to shut up all the criticism he was subjected to with a good bounce-back year, he's doing all this while also leading his Pelicans to wins. How's he been able to do it? Well, it's not only been to his credit, it's also been to the credit of Willie Green, who's been able to see an extra layer of depth in Zion's game. In his new role, Williamson has the opportunity to use one of the most underrated aspects of his game, and that's made the New Orleans Pelicans one of the hottest teams in the entire Western Conference in a season where this performance could be rewarded with a direct berth to the playoffs. So let's talk about this and let's understand why this is happening. Just 8 months ago, the situation was slightly different. Zion was coming off only playing 29 games last season due to hamstring problems that sidelined him for virtually the entire season. And during the offseason, instead of concentrating on getting back to his best, the Pelicans forward was involved in numerous controversies related to his personal life. Yeah, Moriah Mills, a well-known adult entertainer, did everything she could to get Zion talked about every day. Now, was it deserved? Well, everyone makes their own decisions privately, but it was clear that Williamson wasn't able to completely concentrate on basketball. Besides, after being selected for the All-Star game during his sophomore year, the sky seemed the only limit for the forward. A season of 27 points and 7 rebounds per game with 61% shooting from the field foreshadowed the arrival of a generational talent. However, between injuries and a certain sense of stagnation, Zion seemed like the next failed project of a franchise that was making the best decisions to surround him properly. I mean, it's not that Williamson was playing poorly. His statistical performance has always been impressive, being able to score with ease from the paint, being able to assist with fluidity, and being a menace on defense, at least on paper. But the Pelicans, they just weren't able to get wins. Of course, without Zion, they were often even a worse team. But with him, they never quite made the leap to the next level. Maybe their fans remember something similar from the Anthony Davis days. However, something's changed this season. Well, honestly, a lot has changed. The first is his availability. With over 66 games he's played during the 2023-24 season, Zion's already passed his career high mark in this regard of 61, which he achieved in the 2020-2021 season. Something that without any doubt the Pelicans would have been able to take advantage of, being one of the big surprises of the season in the Western Conference. But there's something else that's changed from any other of their seasons, and that's what I was referring to at the beginning of the video. Zion has a very special skill set, and that's that in one-on-one situations, he's nearly impossible to defend. His physicality, athleticism, and his 280-pound frame make him a player who can finish at the rim on virtually every possession, and whose efficiency is virtually unsurpassed. And what are the consequences of this? Well, defenses virtually have no choice but to send a double team. So Willie Green, coach of the team since 2021, decided to use this gravity that his franchise player is capable of generating to assign him a new role. This is how Point Zion was born. The forward's no longer a classic power forward, but a point forward on a team that's changed its offensive scheme since February. But be wary, because as much as this has gone right, it could have easily failed. We've seen many failed point forward experiments, as in the case with Jeremy Sohan. It's still a risky bet. The player in this role not only has to be able to pass the ball naturally, but also has to have the vision to learn and anticipate what's going to happen in the complex offensive system that's the NBA. However, Zion's impressive decision-making has made this possible. Williamson has taken advantage of his ability to draw defenders and has shown remarkable improvement in finding the open man in advantageous situations. Many times, people take for granted that the most athletic players don't need to have a huge basketball IQ because they're more capable of finishing than distributing. And that's true on some occasions. However, Zion's an exception to the rule, and that makes him a truly special player. Since the beginning of the season and up until January 19th, the approximate date Green decided to try this experiment, Williamson was averaging 4.6 assists per game, a figure that was in line with last season's assist numbers. But since January 19th, Zion's been averaging 5.5 assists per game, including 4 games in which he totaled at least 10 assists, up from 0 in the first half of the season. But playmaking is not the only aspect in which Zion's improved over the last few months. Although Williamson's defensive potential appeared to be extremely high when he first arrived on the world's basketball radar, I mean, we've all seen clips like those, right? His first few seasons in the NBA on the defensive end were relatively poor. During his rookie year, his defensive box plus-minus was negative 1.4, a figure below the league average that always tends to be 0.0. During his sophomore year, his performance improved to negative 0.3, which still placed him as a below-average player in the NBA. However, his DBPM this season has been plus 0.5, so Zion's defending better than the average NBA player. In addition, the 2.7 defensive win shares he's accumulated so far is the best figure of his entire career in this aspect. Beyond being a threat in the passing lanes thanks to his freakish agility for a 280-pounder and blocking shots at a much higher volume than in any of his previous seasons, Williamson has become a much better defensive team player. His average in personal fouls committed is also well below his career average, and his athleticism allows him to stay in front of players of widely varying characteristics. This improvement in different aspects translated into a great run for the Pelicans, who posted a record of 18 wins and 6 losses from January 31st through March 24th. True, their recent streak of 4 consecutive home losses has sent them back to play-in positions, but the teams they faced included names like the Boston Celtics, Phoenix Suns, or Orlando Magic, and Brandon Ingram's injury has made things very difficult for them. Without these stumbles, the New Orleans Pelicans were shooting towards the playoffs in impressive form. In the worst-case scenario in which the Pelicans are unable to turn this good performance into a good playoffs performance, it seems that the team would at least have finally found a roadmap. The franchise has had terrible luck over the past few years. After turning Anthony Davis into a lot of quality assets in that trade with the LA Lakers, management hasn't thought twice about reinvesting them to surround their star player. Because in the end, the team had one of the most immediate impact rookies in the league to build on, but unfortunately, injuries made part of those investments go for naught. So will this finally be the moment when Zion's career finally takes off? Well, it looks like it may be. The forward's playing like an all-star despite not being selected to the game this season, and his new role is helping the Pelicans to win. When a player breaks out of the loop of good performances accompanied by losses and manages to turn his performance directly into wins, it usually means he's finally completed his process of adjusting to the league. But also, it may not. Being objective, Zion's health problems have accompanied him throughout his career with the exception of this year. And it's still too early to say that the exception has become the rule. Williamson needs to show this consistency and resiliency on a regular basis, and only then will the Pelicans be able to take the step they couldn't with Anthony Davis. If one thing's clear, it's that Zion is far from reaching his ceiling. At just 23 years old, the forward continues to learn every day and continues to familiarize himself with a system of play that's new to him. Although New Orleans has accelerated its rebuild with trades that have made a lot of sense on paper, perhaps all Williamson needs is a little time to mature his game from a different perspective. And if he does, have no doubt, the NBA will be in trouble.